Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to Why on Islam, the show where we look at current affairs through an Islamic lens. Each week we evaluate a trending news story and we break it down from an Islamic perspective. Millions of people in Iran and across the world are celebrating the 45th anniversary of the victory of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. Led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the revolution saw the overthrow of the US and Israeli-backed Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This week's show explores the factors that brought about the revolution, including Imam Khomeini's focus on drawing inspiration from Islam and the Sharia to center the new government's foreign policy around support for Palestine and opposition to the Zionist entity. First, we look at the background to the events that led to the victory of the revolution.
On February 1, 1979, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini landed in Tehran to mark the end of 2,500 years of dynastic rule and the victory of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. But it was the culmination of many decades of struggle by Imam Khomeini and his followers. Ruhollah was only 2 years old when his father was killed by wealthy local clans over his activism against their unjust landlord practices. And perhaps it was that spirit of activism and justice that ran through the veins of the young Ruhollah. He was raised by his mother and her relatives, and was soon enrolled in Islamic studies in his town of birth, Khomein. In his early 20s, he studied in the Islamic seminary in Iraq before moving to Qom, following in the footsteps of his teacher Ayatollah Abdul Karim Ha'iri Yazdi. He quickly showed his aptitude over the decades and became a leading scholar in Shia Islam. He began expounding upon his political philosophy and teaching his growing number of students in Rome. By the early 1960s, he found himself going head-on against the regime of the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who had embarked on a secularization campaign in Iranian society and had humiliated the Iranian nation by capitulating to American demands that their occupying soldiers not face justice in Iranian courts if they committed crimes. As the Imam once famously remarked, "They have reduced the Iranian people to a level lower than that of an American dog. If someone runs over a dog belonging to an American, he will be prosecuted. Even if the Shah himself were to run over a dog belonging to an American, he would be prosecuted. But if an American cook runs over the Shah, or the Marja of Iran, or the highest official, no one will have the right to object." Faced with such fearless opposition from the Imam and his followers, the Shah had him arrested, which led to mass protests that the regimes responded to by killing over 400 Iranians. The Shah then sent him into exile, first to Turkey and then to Iraq, where he stayed for 13 years, living and teaching in the holy city of Najaf. 1978, with the Shah facing mass opposition and his regime fearful of the influence Imam Khomeini had over the revolutionaries, the Shah requested Iraq to expel him, and he was exiled to France by then Vice President of Iraq, Saddam Hussein. But the resistance to the Shah's regime intensified, and he fled Iran in January 1979, never to return. And a few short weeks later, Imam Khomeini landed back in Tehran, where he would soon establish the Islamic Republic of Iran and cement Iran's independence from the global system of international Zionist domination.
Joining us on the show this week to discuss this historic occasion are two very special guests. With me in the studio is Sister Zahra Subaiti, who is a Part 2 architect and filmmaker. Zahra's interests lie in religious and socio-political affairs, occasionally writing articles and reflection pieces on various online platforms. And joining us via Skype is Sister Sahar Jaber. Sahar has an honours degree in sociology and communication studies from McMaster University. She resides in Lebanon, where she studies at the Islamic Seminary. She co-founded Figs and Olives Publications, an Islamic publishing house aiming to provide reliable and impactful resources for parents, institutions and children in English. Thank you for joining us both. Sister Sahar, if we could begin by asking you, what was it about the personality of Sayyid al-Imam al-Khomeini that made him so charismatic as to be able to lead the revolution?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much for having us on this show and for talking about such an integral conversation. Imam Khomeini, I really do believe that there was absolutely no one that could have taken the role as he did. He took it so honorably. A lot of the characteristics that he held, such as his ability to actually rationalize when it was that we needed a force, or when it was that we needed peace, when it was that we should now learn more and educate ourselves, or when should we just stop and observe. These key characteristics, we don't really see them a lot, especially with leaders who may be emotionally intertwined with it, or they just are impulsive in their actions. And so especially with Imam Khomeini, a lot of the characteristics that made him stand out from any other leader was his ability to not only observe, but to know when to act. And patience and sincerity was what allowed the Iranian revolution to actually lead to the success that they had. And so we do understand from this aspect that not only does it take for a leader or someone in that political power, in that political position, to have wealth and resources and the ability to fight, but it also takes for them to have the ability to understand what actions should they take right now. And especially with Imam Khomeini, he made America tremble. He was someone that lived off of dates.